We are Maria
and Nicole. We're two secular homeschooling moms that have
been there, done that. Welcome to episode 35, Best and Worst Homeschool Buys. We've interviewed countless homeschool moms with real stories, real advice, from regrettable buys to game-changing purchases. We're going to be spilling the beans on what worked, what didn't, and how to make your homeschool budget count.
And as usual, we want to stress that our podcast is an inclusive space for your everyday parents that are looking for education options. We are not here to convince you to homeschool. We want to stress that you need to do what works for your child and for your family.
Every family's different.
Absolutely. And you know your children best. So feel free to take what advice or information you get from here that works for you and chuck the rest.
Good morning, Nicole. It's so good to be back.
I know. Good morning, Maria. It's nice to be back in this podcast seat.
The recording studio is now open after our big whirlwind conference.
I know. It was so awesome. And are you still just reeling a little bit over
I can't believe it.
The weekend?
Yeah, it was incredible. We met so many amazing people. Jasmine, who coordinated the entire conference.
She was fabulous.
She's such a great lady.
She was. And then all the vendors, I'm still kind of in awe that we were part of that group with the speakers. We just met so many incredible people, and then the attendees. I don't know what I was expecting.
So many new homeschoolers.
So many. I really thought this was going to be more like existing homeschoolers that were looking for secular options, looking for a different kind of conference, but there were a ton of people just off the street that were like, oh yeah, we're thinking about doing this.
Right. In hindsight, it probably should have had a brand new beginner packet, but thankfully people can go to the beginner, new homeschooler part in our website. So
and kind of get started there.
Yeah, we stepped them through that. So we guided them there. I'm glad we had that resource for them.
I did too. And I don't know, it just makes me really excited to see what new homeschoolers are going to be coming up in the next few years, because I feel like we had some really good conversations and shared some really good information, and I'm excited.
I know. And my new planner that I published it right before the conference, it sold. People loved it, and it got such great feedback.
I know. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it was and you know what? I was inspired. We're in North Texas, and there's not a lot of really great groups that organize all of the resources here in our area. So I was inspired by many of the people that were looking for things to compile my own list. So I'm actually in the middle of doing that right now.
No, it's great. Yeah, we have a lot of different groups and a lot of information out there, but not solidly in one single place. So I think that's going to be helpful. A lot of people were really surprised. They were like, "Oh, you guys are local?" We're like, "Yeah, we're from right here." So,
well, we are really excited about today's episode because a lot of these new homeschoolers are buying things that they really don't need.
Yes. And so we are going to help them out for sure, because most homeschoolers are on a pretty strict budget. Many of us are in single income households, and we don't want to break the bank with curriculum and school supplies.
Right. And I'm a single mom, and I'm on an extremely tight budget. I'm very deliberate about what I spend my money on, and I'm sure my budget is probably even tighter than a lot of other homeschoolers.
I know it is, because I'm always in awe of your grocery budget.
Teeny tiny.
Very tiny. And in a previous episode, we discussed whether or not you can afford to homeschool, and we gave a lot of tips and tricks for saving money and cutting corners.
Yeah, and it's great to save money, but you're not really saving money if you're buying things that you really don't need. So what do you really need? And what do you really not need?
Sometimes we buy things we really don't need, or we wish we had bought something different that would have worked better in our homeschool and spent our money more wisely. So in this episode, we actually went straight to the source.
We sure did. I know that I have my own opinions on this one, and I know that you do too. But we wanted to get a much broader perspective on this topic, so we took it to the streets and we literally asked hundreds of seasoned homeschool parents how they wish they had spent their money better. What do they wish that they never bought? What do they wish that they had bought sooner? Or which item that they bought that they maybe wish that they had bought a different version of. So we asked them.
Yeah, we discussed real tips from hundreds of real homeschoolers that have been there, done that. And I guarantee these are real parents with real advice, but we wanted to give them some privacy. So we've numbered each parent to keep them anonymous.
And as I was reading through all the feedback that we received, I was kind of surprised at some of the things that people had bought because they weren't on my radar. But if people had bought them, I'm guessing that chances are that some of our listeners are also considering buying them too. And we want to save you any wasted money. And the economy is crazy and inflation is even crazier. So let's not waste anything on education supplies that we don't need. So let's get going.
Absolutely. Let's get started. So, what do you regret buying early in your homeschool journey?
Okay, so this was the first person that we interviewed, but it was just a repeated thing over and over again. And so many of the moms that we talked to said that they wish that they had never bought a full box curriculum. And time again, they said they wish that they waited to see what worked best for their children and for themselves. And over again, they said that they would have saved hundreds of dollars. So this is a repeat over and over with these moms.
Right. And it's really true. A lot of people are super excited at the prospect of homeschooling in the beginning, but they're also overwhelmed at the same time. And so these nice, shiny, full curricula packages can really look like they check all the boxes for you.
Often they don't work for every child or a child who is learning new things at different levels. With my own children, it really varied. If you compared it to a traditional school, one would have been perceived as ahead in reading or behind in math, and the other one would have been perceived as ahead in science and behind in language arts. One level box curriculum often doesn't work for homeschoolers, and they can be really expensive.
Really expensive. So mom number 2 was super excited about the curriculum she bought, but later it turned out that her child totally hated workbooks and really basically hated everything about sitting still in general. She laughs about it now because she said that the thing that she bought first was something that they never ever used.
Yeah, a lot of people think that workbooks and worksheets are the answer because that's what they see coming home from school as homework. But those are often busy work. Some kids do a lot better being more hands-on or project-based, my kids did, or by reading and verbally narrating what they've learned.
Right. She said that she wished that she had took more time to find out the best way for them to structure their days and find out what her kids liked best. She said she learned that homeschooling does not need to look like school.
Right. In our schedules, routines, and rhythms, we talk specifically about that, about finding your natural rhythm within your family. So if you haven't listened to that, go out and listen to that. It really doesn't need to look like school. I know we say that often, but it's true. There's a reason that your child isn't in school, and that's because it didn't work for them or your family. So replicating public school at home doesn't make sense. Creating your own space and structure is a major advantage of homeschooling for a lot of people. It really takes a mental switch. We have an episode also that's called What is a Homeschool Lifestyle that we've gotten a lot of great feedback about, and it's helped a lot of new homeschoolers rethink education and what they really want for their child and family. So I would encourage you to check that one out.
Absolutely. So mom number 4 regrets getting subscriptions and apps that claim that they'll be an easy solution.
Yeah.
And that your child will learn everything they need to know. She said her children lost interest and refused to do them. And I know for a fact that until you cancel a credit card, you sometimes forget how many subscriptions you have out there.
Right.
My husband's always what's all these Apple $3.99? I'm like, oh, they're apps.
That's the big moneymaker anymore is subscriptions.
Well, and that's what people count as. Same with gyms. They make more money off of people who don't get around to canceling than they do the people who actually use the gym or the product.
Right.
So,
and I've actually had a couple that I've loved over the years, but we'll get back to that later.
Yeah.
Anything with easy in the title or description should be approached with caution. A lot of those programs are, again, filler and busy work, and it looks like they are functional, but often they aren't.
Right. Mom number 5, again, here's somebody who regrets purchasing an all-in-one curriculum. You sometimes see that with AIO. She felt like she was capable and good at planning homeschooling for her preschool and elementary age kids, but then she got kind of nervous about middle school and high school, and she made a huge purchase that ended up totally bombing.
Right. I would say really trust your strengths. There's often not a whole lot different than in these older grade levels, and you know your kids by now. And if you've been homeschooling for a while, you know what they like, you know what works for them. If you're new, consider trying before you buy so you can figure out what style best matches your student. Many of them have sample lessons you can download for free and give it a go. Possibly you could borrow a curriculum for a week from a friend and just give it a trial run.
Yeah, I'm easily influenced, so I always say that that was my problem, was going to Jody's house and coming home with all new stuff. But, you know, it is nice to kind of get your hands on something and look at it and see before you spend money on it. So always a good thing to do. So mom number 6, she regretted spending money on books without checking the library first or making sure that they really, really loved them. You know, why waste space on your bookshelf if you don't know if these are going to be well-loved books.
Right.
We know as homeschoolers that we quickly run out of book space. It's a premium.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. When I was thinning out my bookshelves from the little young age,
Yeah.
I mean, of course I kept all our favorites, but I could not believe the amount of books I had.
No, it's nuts. And when you have too many, it can actually be distracting, and it keeps you from finding the good ones that you have on there for a reason. You know, I like to buy books and put them on a shelf just so that my kids are like looking through and can kind of grab them without actually, you know, assigning the book to them. So I want them to be able to find that stuff.
And I say the same thing to my kids about the things in their bedroom or in their closet. And I'm like, don't waste all this space on things that you don't use regularly.
Yeah.
Let's move them out to the garage and only have the things in here you love.
Right.
This mom also recommended not purchasing things that could be obtained from her local or buy nothing group. Ask big. You never know what people are willing to share. So broad sweep.
I know. Are you on your neighborhood buy nothing group?
Am.
Oh my gosh, I totally love mine.
I got an Ergo. I got an Ergo baby carrier.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've totally gotten rid of and gotten some really awesome things on there. And like this mom said she wished she had asked more from her Buy Nothing group, because she later found out that there were all these people that were unloading books for free that she could have easily used.
Right.
But yeah, you never know. I'm always amazed when people are like, oh, I know this is a long shot, but does anyone have like a dryer? And somebody always is like, yes, I actually have one in my garage, so that totally works. And so
Just
come get it.
there,
Like,
yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. Join those groups. They're really cool.
Well, and it happens to us too. Sometimes when we're thinning things out, we're like, who could use this? We don't want to, you know, it may be hard to get to, like a thrift store may not resell,
Right.
or maybe we don't have or want to take the time to resell it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, particularly with books and like homeschool curriculum too, like there's things that we know that we spend a lot of money on, but like your normal everyday person isn't going to recognize the value in that, but another homeschooler might. So I'd rather give something away to a homeschooler I know who will use it.
Or if it's not pretty anymore, maybe something you've written in or wrote notes, or maybe you know the corners, or maybe it's worn, your dog chewed it halfway, but it's still got some good value.
Still got some good days in it.
Also, another thing is to check homeschool groups. I'm in one here in North Texas, and we've been a part of it for many years, and it has a lending library. They lend everything. They have microscopes, they have science kits, musical instruments, curriculum, hobby supplies. They have everything. Many people don't take advantage of it, and a lot of these things were donated by older members to use and to help out. And homeschoolers are notorious for helping each other. So take advantage of that and pay it forward when it's your turn.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably a cool thing to start if you don't have one in your area.
Right.
I bet it would be cool. It could be as easy as just like maintaining a spreadsheet
I think
with
you'd
that
be shocked
information
how many
in
moms
it.
that are already past the stage are willing to say, yeah, take this, take that.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so mom number 7. So she bought all of these small baskets and classroom organizers, and she said that they just take up space now because they keep everything they need each week in a laundry basket.
Oh my goodness. So I totally feel that. I sometimes said that I needed organizers for my organizers. And I mean, these things are so addicting when you're like walking through Home Goods, or
They're so pretty.
Yeah, or like just don't even go to the Container Store.
Oh my
ever.
gosh. They're so expensive, but
they
have
are.
it for everything.
They are. And I have a real problem like getting rid of baskets and stuff, you know. If you got a real good basket, like you might need it for something, but you really just need to have a system that works for you. Otherwise, it's in the way, it's taking up space.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to mom 8. So she said that when her kids were 4 and 5 years old, she got a couple of school desks. You know, the kind with the seat and the desk attached and the rack under the seat for books. She bought it at a surplus store, and she said that her kids love them, but never, not once, she used them for anything truly school work related. They ended up being outside toys eventually. So.
It's so funny because that's like one item that when I see those come up on like Marketplace or like anything like that, I'm always like, oh, I need those. And then I'm like, why? We would never use those. My kids would hate those.
Oh, my kids would hate them too.
Oh, it's so funny. So mom number 9, she said, again, she regrets buying a full curriculum. She also regrets buying classroom decorations and coloring books. And I'm totally with her on the coloring books. We somehow had a million. I think mostly because like grandparents and like other relatives love to give your kids coloring books, especially if, you know, they're into a certain character, which I had a very Minnie Mouse kid, like only dressed in a Minnie Mouse costume for like 2 years. So we had a lot of Minnie Mouse coloring books, and my kids never wanted anything to do with them. Though now that like adult coloring books are like all the rage, now they're into them. So
right.
It's kind of funny.
That's fun. That is funny. And yes, you do end up picking up a lot of these as gifts. Now, I do have some classroom decor that I like, but we didn't want the standard classroom ABC border and stuff like that. If you went to our booth at the Texas Homeschool Expo, some of the decorations in there actually are from my homeschool room. I had one huge sign that I made years ago called Home Sweet Homeschool.
It's so cute. You've always had a really pretty decorated
you're sweet.
homeschool classroom.
So yeah, all those letters and everything I picked up at garage sales, and I literally cut down the board and made that myself. So
That's
fun. You can do that yourself. You don't always have to go and overbuy all that stuff.
Yeah, and you definitely don't have to buy like the super schooly stuff.
Right.
Like,
Let's not replicate school at home because it did not work for you.
No.
Okay, so mom number 10. So she regrets a million cheap plastic pencil sharpeners and random Costco workbooks. I have known some people who have enjoyed the Costco workbooks, but the majority of moms do not. And this one really cracked me up, only because I have gone through the pencil sharpener thing and then finally found an awesome one that I love that actually it's on our Amazon wish list. So we put that on our website because we love that one.
Sometimes something that I personally regretted buying was a preschool curriculum for my oldest.
Yes.
And now, of course, if you've listened to our podcast, you know this is a topic that I rail against often. But when you are young and excited, it's easy to get swept up in getting started. And you really want, these fun things. But my third child really, really benefited from not having me in her face with like a flashcard every minute. And she ended up learning all the same things anyway. We've talked about the whole colors thing. We forgot to teach her colors.
And you know what's funny is she's probably your most excited learner.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you didn't kill that.
I didn't kill it early on. Though now I do make her do like flashcards so that we can be ready for our trivia games on Wednesday.
Right. You know what? You can never
do you know your state capitals in alphabetical order? Get cracking.
Oh gosh, I love that. All right.
So just a reminder that this is a weekly episode. We drop one every Thursday morning just for you. And if you have any additional ideas or comments, please come and comment on our Facebook page, on the episode thread, or send us an email at info@btdthomeschool.com. We'd really love to hear from you. So what do you wish you'd purchased earlier?
Well, the first mom we talked to wished that she had purchased a large, detailed map of the world and U.S. first. She said it was the single most important thing that she had used, and it was the most helpful when she was teaching.
Oh, yes, totally. That or a globe, or a globe. We actually have multiple globes. My kids each have one. But I'm always surprised at how much younger kids will actually get way more out of globes and maps than we think that they will.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great reference when talking about geography, history, science. There's so much you can do with globes and maps. And my maps are actually behind glass. And so we actually use I say dry erase. I don't use dry erase really in my homeschool.
You use wet erase.
I use wet erase, which I found that they're just really helpful. They clean off really easily on whether I'm using a laminated sheet or something behind glass. It's super easy to clean off perfectly.
Yeah, those are great. Mine are laminated. I bought laminated ones, and so we also wrote on those regularly. And then of course I have blank maps that we talked about in another episode that actually make really great keepsakes later. We're currently working on our world one.
Yeah, that was on our episode Around the World in Your Homeschool.
Oh yeah, which was a really cool one. Yeah, get a map and listen to that episode. Mom number 3 wished that they had done more play-based and adventuring with their oldest back in kindergarten and first grade versus doing curriculum and seated work. She also said that she wished she had found like-minded secular homeschoolers early on in her journey.
Right, and it happens all the time. We say this on our Getting Started page that finding your people is one of the most important things. things. And also starting formal education too early can be a little bit of an inhibitor, igniting their love for learning. So I definitely agree with both of these. I often talk about my kids being more hands-on project type learners and finding more like-minded homeschoolers. It's just we can just go in auto repeat on this one. That's one of the things that we've listed on our 10 things episode, our top 10. Finding your people is a really important key part of homeschooling, and you definitely need support, and tapping into a local group early on, it can mean everything. Total game changer.
I mean, that's where we met.
That's how we're doing this podcast right now.
Yeah, and we talked about that a lot at the conference this week. We were like, we met when our kids were itty bitty, and all those kids are still friends.
The dinos. Hey, dinos. Shout out to the dinos. It's a local group here in the North Texas area, and it feels like, their relationship with each other was similar to ours way back then. Their kids are growing up together.
We were like, oh, it's like the next batch.
I love it.
I loved it too.
They were so fun.
They were super cute.
Oh my gosh,
they were adorable.
Have a drink with them.
Exactly. So mom number 6 said she wished she had encouraged her children's love of learning and done more field trips and always had science and art supplies on hand for those spur of the moment projects. And this is something we've also talked about in multiple episodes.
Yes, we have an entire episode devoted to field trips, and along with a cool field trip blog post and packet of downloads. We love field trips. We've also talked a lot about making an art area somewhere in your house where kids can just make things wherever and whenever creativity strikes them.
Right. We're recording in your art space right now. And I saw a photo of a bunch of teens at your house working on some crafting the other night.
So these 16-year-olds were super excited about painting. Cameron comes in and goes, Mom, can I get some paints for we're going to paint out here? And I'm like, where do you mean out there? In the living room? No. I have a whole studio for that, sweetheart. But you're in here, Mom, because when you're 16 with your friends, you apparently don't want to hang out in the same space as your mom. And I'm like, no, I'll leave. Y'all come on in here. So they did. And they made some really cute things.
Oh, I love it. Having supplies and stuff for experiments and things for art handy is awesome. You don't even have to really do anything or plan anything with it. Just kind of have it out there, and the kids are going to find it and start creating on their own.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to mom number 10. She said that she wished she got an electric pencil sharpener sooner. Is this a theme or what?
There's a lot of pencil sharpening themes going on here.
Yeah, I hope everyone's paying attention.
Maybe I need to try one again. I got sucked into that metal best pencil sharpener ever that was passed around the internet, and I bought one, and secretly I freaking hate it.
Oh, really?
No, it's the worst. And the little plastic thing that keeps the shaving, it's just bulky, it's heavy. The plastic thing that keeps the shavings constantly falls out and it gets poured everywhere. I find it everywhere.
I do have this one, and you have to empty it.
Well, I know you do, but it doesn't matter. The kids will grab it to it'll be emptied. They'll grab it to sharpen the pencil, and then walking back to their desk, it spills out, and I'm like, oh, seriously.
Okay, so before you leave today, I'm going to show you mine, and you can tell me if that's the same one we're talking about.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, the bad one or the good one? Because you have the good one on our homeschool essentials list. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on to mom number 11. She said that she wished she had gotten school work display options earlier. She said that she somehow thought that they would have less items and paperwork since they weren't in school anymore, and she quickly got overwhelmed with all of this stuff. She also felt like she was somehow more proud of the things that her kids were creating at home, and she really looked for a way to showcase those things and display them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've talked before about our art frames that kind of open from the front.
Those are so cool. Yeah,
they're awesome.
We'll link those
we use those more to display other people's art, but now that I've talk about it all the time, it always comes up as an advertisement in my Facebook feed where people do whole gallery walls with these kind of frames. So
they're cool. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and we also had we got some of those hanging wire from IKEA that has clips that we would clip things in. I had framed clipboards that I would rotate things out for each kid. We have up in my playroom, you probably remember, I have art on the wall, big letters.
Oh,
A-R-T.
They're so cute. Oh, I love that wall.
And I don't love about that wall is the piece of paper that my kids put a big F on to put in front of the art.
Oh, for fart.
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty clever.
It's funny. See? It's homeschooling.
See, you homeschooled some clever children.
They can spell.
Yeah, I love that. And somebody also mentioned library cards. I had these from early on, but I guess maybe not everyone knows that your kids can get library cards when they're little.
Yeah.
They're usually free and part of your parent account, and often you can get them in cities that border your own city. And
yeah, we have reciprocal memberships at several libraries. Like Plano is the one I use, even though I live in Richardson.
Oh yeah, and you can get a whole lot more than books at the library anymore.
Oh yeah, and we actually had to get multiple cards for our family when we first moved here because in Carrollton they had a crazy 5-book limit.
5?
For the first 6 months. Yes.
Oh my gosh. No, we were always at our book max. I've talked about this in other episodes. Our book limit was 50 and we were always maxed out. And and since my kids have gone on to high school, now their book limit is 100.
Yeah.
So
we had
use that.
At our library in Florida, they actually gave Jody and I dedicated hold shelves. Because we would reserve so many books that they finally, instead of just having, like, she took up the whole P section, so they finally just made her own shelf.
Oh my gosh, and you were the H section.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. So no one specifically mentioned these, but I saw it on another list, an analog clock. A lot of times we don't realize every clock in our house is digital until we start learning how to tell time. So, and we always, we just went to Walmart and we got some Timex watches for the kids too.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah, they're cheap and readily available. I think we got one from the dollar store. But like I found out I had multiple analog clocks, but like none of them actually worked. Like I had like an old grandfather clock. I had something somebody had won in a competition, and all of those things kind of go along with math manipulatives in general. We're both big fans of using math manipulatives.
Absolutely.
And you can get those super early, and they're great for learning all kinds of concepts from counting to money to just everything.
Yeah, in our top math games blog post, we have some manipulatives, but we also have tons of games. But that was always such a huge part of homeschooling, is just getting in there and getting your hands in the stuff. And you really can start young kids on all of this for fun. I'd also recommend a good set of headphones. These can be great for listening to music or audiobooks for your kids, or it can be used to tune out other family members. We are all together a lot, so sometimes not having to hear a chatty sibling or someone eating can help preserve the peace in your home. My son took a class, a music appreciation at the college, and they said that we needed headphones to do this, and I didn't know what to buy, and I'm like, what do I need to buy for this quality music they're listening to? And the professor gave me a really great resource. It was like $10 or $15 Sony headphones that I bought, and they've been beloved in our homeschool ever since. So anyway, I put that also on our Amazon list. I love those headphones all the time. My kids steal them, so maybe I should get another pair.
Well, they're great, and for $10, like you can, once they're trashed, you can throw them away and buy a new pair.
Right. And after you finish listening to this episode, be sure to visit our website. We're going to write up all of the show notes and have links to everything that we're talking about, so it's just really easy for you to access and reference. Every week, I like to create free resources that complement that episode, so be sure to sign up to our newsletter so you don't miss any of that exclusive content. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, we would love it if you went out there and gave us a thumbs up or even comment on the episode thread.
What are your best homeschool buys?
Well, going back to Mom 5, she said that the 3 things she's so happy that she purchased from day one has been a printer. She's used it every single day. I know a lot of homeschoolers are enjoying an eco tank. I don't use that. I use a Canon printer, and I buy just generic ink on Amazon. So I have that listed on the generic ink. I think is like, I don't know, like $10 for all of it. So it ends up really lasting quite a while, and I think they fill them up more than the actual name brand inks. So that's something to think about. The other things that she said that she bought that she really has used all the time are a bookbinder. I had one early on. I didn't realize the value. I got rid of it, and I kick myself now because I really wish I had a bookbinder, and a laminator, and I use my laminator all the time. And I think most homeschoolers do use their laminator and printer definitely all the time.
Well, I don't actually have a laminator, so I hope I don't get kicked out. No, I know. But you know what? Sometimes I do buy laminating sheets to laminate. Like you can,
I don't
they're
even
sticky.
know you right now. Don't
I know.
even look at me.
I know. I am a big fan of bookbinding though. And though I haven't tried doing it myself, my friend taught me early on how to take them to Office Depot, and you can get them to cut the binding off of a book and then 3-hole punch it or spiral bind it. And I'm a huge spiral binding person. I would spiral bind like literally everything.
Right.
But yeah, it's great.
I absolutely agree. And she also said that she wished that she purchased PDFs of everything when available instead of getting hard copies. And she said that she learned it can be a lot easier to print from a PDF and use between multiple children. And now she's stuck scanning and printing pages from her hard copy curriculum. So that's kind of frustrating. And sometimes you skip pages, like you don't want to do a certain
Right,
thing, so
right.
you don't need that.
Yeah, if you can just print it as it goes. And I totally agree with that. Like for big families, for sure. I've done the single copy, but I laminate or put like consumable pages in plastic sleeves so that you can use dry erase or wet erase.
Wet erase.
And then just clean it off for the next kid too. That's something that a lot of people do.
Right. And she also recommended that anything that encourages her children's love of learning makes it easier for you to continue field trips, science, art projects, and supplies to have on hand for spur-of-the-moment learning. So
Right.
those are really important.
Yep, we talk about them all the time. Mom number 9 says she wishes that some things that she had bought earlier were a good printer. This is definitely a theme. A piano.
Yes.
A sewing machine and memberships to everywhere. Memberships are a great gift. This is what I actually have grandparents give us instead of, lots of toys and things like that for Christmas and different birthdays. And we talked about museum reciprocal programs in our field trip episode. So memberships are really like the gift that keeps on giving.
Right. Those reciprocal programs will really save you a lot of money, especially if you're traveling or taking a big road trip.
Oh, yeah. I totally love it. And piano, like we just had a keyboard, but you guys have a regular piano, right?
Well, we have a digital piano that
okay.
I bought like secondhand, and it's like several $1,000s. But of course, I found it for like $100.
Yeah. No, it's fabulous.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Mom 11. She said that she's super glad that she bought an EcoTank printer. I know that a lot of homeschoolers do love that. And she also said a laminator, so I see a little bit of a repeat there, but also rolling carts. So yeah, printers and laminators, that's something that you probably will need or want, unless you're Nicole. Yeah, so that's kind of a thematic thing for a lot of homeschoolers. I also love a great rolling cart. We have one that is in our homeschool room that has all our homeschool essentials. And it's on our homeschool essentials list on our website.
Everybody loves a great rolling cart. And you know what? Like all of our kids ended up taking one to college too.
I know.
It's a great dorm.
They
you never
steal
outgrow the
everything.
rolling cart. Yeah, we use them. We have more than one.
So moving on to mom number 12. So she's really grateful for functional storage. And this mom talked about having her husband put in fancy floating shelves everywhere, only to realize that books are heavy, and they had a lot of them. Some really great bookshelves and storage systems were what she really needed. IKEA has great handy systems. They're cheap and they're easy, and shelves are often also a great item that you can find free or cheap at moving sales or on the Facebook Marketplace or just garage sales.
Yeah, you really can never have too many big bookshelves.
Yeah, I even have them in my garage.
Yeah,
I have nice ones, like wooden ones. I found my garage sale for cheap, and I'm like, well, I didn't need these fancy ones for my garage, but the price was right, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have fancy garage shelves.
No, they're great things to find. This mom also mentioned having a CD player or Alexa for playing music. I know most of us stream music now, but sometimes having some of us with secondhand curriculum may still include CDs. We had a lot of audio CDs and things like that. Well, I have to
say, when my kids were, I want to say maybe 5, it was it just felt like 5 was bigger. And so each of my kids got a CD player with CDs.
Yeah.
I found them at a garage sale, cheap. And so, yeah, and it was kind of fun for them to put that in and push play.
Oh, yeah.
Streaming music is fine and dandy, and you push your button and you play your music. But the physical act of actually putting on a record or putting a CD or a tape in, I think that's a really cool thing for young kids.
Well, and we did a lot of audiobooks. And so each of my kids had their own CD player in their room because the library audiobooks are still on CD. So they would get those from there. And, some newer cars don't have a CD player.
I know.
anymore, which we listened to a lot of stuff in our car. I actually had to scramble for like a VCR DVD player to watch some like old videos that we had. And it was really funny because the guy at Best Buy didn't know what I was talking about.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he was like, do you mean like a Blu-ray player? I'm like, no, I need a VCR DVD combo. So eventually, you know where I found it? Buy Nothing.
Oh,
Like
really?
everybody's got an extra.
Oh, that's
So
funny.